Coming to you live from Johannesburg, South Africa, a very warm welcome to Africa Tech Week 2021. Today marks officially day one of this virtual edition, and over the next 2 days, you can expect to be a part of robust conversations with captains of industry engaging in strategic conversations that have been guided under the theme of driving economic growth in Africa through digital transformation. My name is Vuyolwethu Dubese, and I'm delighted to be your host and moderator this year. These next 2 days would not be possible without our sponsors, with a special mention to PPC and Baxter Waves for coming on board again this year. Always a pleasure to have you. To our family of sponsors, we welcome Visa, Gijima, and Liquid Intelligent Technologies. You can look forward to rich content and case studies that have been coming from these sponsors over the next 2 days. Please also remember to pop in and visit their live expo booths. We also extend a special thanks to our strategic partners who you can also visit at the live expo: Africa Teen Geeks, British Chamber of Business in South Africa, Silicon Cape, Savka, Sapra, City, the Daily Tech Post, B-Pesa, Productivity SA, Brand SA, E-Commerce Forum SA, IT News Africa, and Cape Business News. A reminder that there is a Topco help desk which you can locate in the Sessions tab on the left-hand side of your screen. In addition, should you require any information on how to enter the Africa Tech Week Awards in August, the Topco team is available to assist. Please also remember to sign up for the Topco newsletter. Now, we do encourage you to engage with us across social media with the Africa Tech Week competition in association with Boschendal Wine Farm, and this is how you can stand a chance to win. To win a 2-night stay at Boschendal Wine Farm, or to get your hands on an exclusive Nicholas Magnum, all you have to do is share your favorite Africa Tech Week experience accompanied by the hashtag Africa Tech Week, and tag us and Boschendal in your posts. Before I hand over to our first speaker of the program, Ralf Fletcher, the CEO of Topco Media, to officially welcome us to Africa Tech Week, a reminder that because this is a virtual world, at times technical gremlins might creep into the system, whether it be on our network or on yours. So if you do drop on connectivity, we'd like to encourage you to go back to the invitation with the login details and join us again so we can have a powerful Africa Tech Week that is out of this world. Welcome to the virtual world of the new normal. This is Africa Tech Week.
Good morning, Vuyo, and thanks so much for introducing me. I hope you're well. Today I'm in beautiful Cape Town, my home for the last 30 years. So it's not the best of days in the mother city, but certainly Cape Town has been showing off the last couple of weeks. So please let us know in the world where you're calling from in the chat. Obviously, we want to welcome delegates from all over the world. There's 50 countries that's represented at the event so far. And really, I'd just like to welcome you all to the Africa Tech Week 2021 Summit, which we're also kicking off Africa Month. So well done to Africa. Currently, we are seeing interest grow in Africa Tech as really the new frontier. And I think what's great is this event has grown like technology exponentially, from 300 delegates in 2019 to 900 delegates last year, and now it's nearly 3,000 delegates this year. So you guys are also helping us raise the bar. We received our attendee rating last year of a 9.25 out of 10, so thanks so much for that. And we're seeing some really distinguished guests come back this year, internationally, from Africa. So, please let me start by formally introducing them, our esteemed panel of speakers, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, and all South Africans. So we're currently streaming live. We're going to be going on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, I heard. So this is really where you're allowed to get your phones out and join the social conversation. I recently spoke to Abe Smith, who's head of Zoom International. He's going to be joining me soon for Fireside Chat. And he sort of, mentioned that there's a big focus in the world on Africa. But the key thing for us now is to make sure that we keep up that momentum and that we really start shouting about the good and the great that's happening in South Africa. And it's really events like Africa Tech Week that's driving this change, but we need you, and I think it's about you. You are the custodians, the fans of tech in Africa, and we need you to be shouting about what's happening in Africa. So on that note, it's also important for us to get your feedback, and last year the sort of feedback that we got was unbelievable. I think it was like 4,000 comments in the chat, and it's really offering us a great opportunity to get these unique insights of what these 60 speakers are going to be talking around. And so we're encouraging you to connect and to showcase your successes on this platform. As many of you might know, I'm a big football supporter, and you've seen the sort of impact of fans on football in the last couple of weeks. And I suppose it really just drives a message home, is that this event is really for you. So here's the deal, right? If you like what you hear, you're enjoying the content and you're finding value in the networking, just share it. Share your positive experience with your colleagues, your friends, and with us. I mean, the team here are doing an awesome job of bringing you these great speakers, this great content, and these partners. And we have a really big BHAG. It's our really big ambition. I think they say a BHAG is when somebody laughs at you when you say it, and it's sort of worth laughing at. But we want to bring 100,000 people to this event, to Africa, to Cape Town in the next 5 years. And we really want to put Africa on the map and drive its growth. And so on behalf of Topco Media and our partners Visa, Gajima, PPC, VaxoWave, and the beautiful city of Cape Town, I want to welcome you to Africa Tech Week's virtual summit. And I'd just like to congratulate and thank all our partners and community who have really stood behind us in growing this event, and to make sure that we can execute it in this very important event. So, at the last Africa Tech Week we were inundated with positive messages, as I mentioned earlier, from our delegates, partners, award winners, and sponsors. And we were, thanks to VentureBoom, they listed us as one of the top tech events of the year to attend for startups. So we're obviously proudly South African. We're based in Cape Town itself, and we have this ambition to help Africa and South Africa. So this event and awards are a celebration of our tech community, and a time to showcase our successes, to solve our biggest challenges, and how we overcome and adapting to the future by implementing unique digital business models, adapting customer-centric solutions that are really solving real problems. So this year we focus on partnerships, the success of business models, and the impact of excellent customer journeys. I think what we're seeing is some common themes include having the right leadership, supported by the right team of skilled people who have the relevant processes and policies to cope in this digital and hybrid work and economy. All in all, Topco has hosted over 10,000 delegates in the last 12 months in our virtual platforms. And our focus and our purpose is to inspire the world to do good business. So we're hoping you're going to do some good business here. At Topco, we've grown to serve a community. We're live here, you can see. So we've grown a community of over 45,000 decision makers who trust us with their company information. We engage with them in our research, newsletters, podcasts, masterclasses, events, digital publications. So, if you really want to stay informed in terms of and be connected with what's happening in business on this continent, sign up now on our website, topco.coza. So Topco Research is our division that's been tracking transformation in Africa for over 20 years. We're seeing a new shift in terms of digitization and the humanization of tech, and a particular emphasis on social upliftment and social engagement. And as we see a stabilization of the virus in most countries, obviously with the exception of India, and our prayers go out to India, we see a new emphasis on health tech, edutech, fintech, and the emergence of localization. And we're seeing a massive move this year with Stripe's purchase of Paystack that's demonstrating another reason to do business in Africa. So there's no doubt South Africa and Africa is endowed with great people, this great spirit. But to enhance that spirit, we all need to work in a common and unified way. And we're trying to make sense of the future of business and work. I think we all are in this position. So we've got a fantastic lineup of some great speakers. The opportunity that virtual allows us is that it allows us to explore and engage with these amazing speakers, things that we wouldn't be able to do before. And I think, look, one of the challenges, the biggest challenges of an event like this is it creates for delegates the networking. They're not familiar with this, this in-person events. They're used to the sort of networking of moving and going to someone. So therefore, we've really tried to create a personal networking tool. And, what I encourage you to do is put on your Zoom outfits, and really there's real people on the other side of the screen who've got real challenges just like you. And it takes 3 seconds of courage. Click that button and voila, you've sort of in there, you're talking to somebody in another country with similar challenges, maybe in Africa. So we invite specialist partners to also help us. I think we're all in the same boat, right? We're trying to figure this digitization out. We've got different challenges, and so we've invited specialists from out the continent and internationally to help us to solve these journeys. And so really take a look out for the exhibitors who are on standby to engage with you. They've done a lot of prep work. They've been working in the last 2 days, making sure they've got people 24/7 manning these desks. So they are live. The demos and the networking at the event is really important. So enjoy the next 2 days. Make sure you keep the speakers on their toes with questions. Be sure to reach out to your fellow Africa Technovators. And if you consider your company to be a leader in tech innovation, please reach out to our awards team. We're going to be honouring Africa's top tech leaders in August. So on that note, have a great event. Thanks so much. Over to you, Vu.
That was Ralf Fletcher, the CEO at Topco Media, officially welcoming us into Africa Tech Week Summit and sharing that big, hairy, audacious goal of 100,000 delegates in the next 5 years. An excellent way to kickstart the day. And remember, this is your conversation, your platform to own and share with Africa and the world. So as you're engaging with the keynote addresses, the tech talks, the case studies, and panel discussions, we invite you to share these nuggets across our social media platforms using the official hashtag Africa Tech Week. Without any ado, let's get into our first keynote address. And a special one this is because it swings the pendulum of innovation, impact, and inclusion. Titled Innovation and Women Empowerment, please welcome Dr. Marianne Crook. Marianne Crook, the Vice President of Engineering at Google, and facilitating this address is the founder and CEO at Africa Teen Geeks, Lindiwe Matlali.
Good afternoon. I am so excited to be having a conversation with my role model, my hero, my mentor, Dr. Marianne Crook. If you don't know who she is, you should definitely Google her. She's the Vice President of Engineering at Google, and the woman who is credited for developing voice over IP. The reason that all of us have been able to communicate and continue to work during the pandemic. I am so honored, and just every time I pinch myself when I think about, oh my God, I've got Marianne Crook's number, I can text it. So thank you so much, Marianne, for doing this. But I am just so honored to have you with us. But I think for me, what I'm more excited about is having as many African kids to know of you, know of your work, and know, that there's somebody who looks like them who has actually changed the face of technology. Tell me, what does it mean being an innovator to you?
Lindiwe, it's great to see you again. I always enjoy talking with you, and I admire you as deeply as you seem to admire me. You're amazing in all the things that you do. So when I think about innovators, I think about people who are creative and who want to change things. They're not happy with the state of things as they are, and they're taking their creativity and actually doing something very practical with it in order to make things better, to see a difference in things. It's a mindset mostly. It's not a skill or a talent, but it's something that you have to turn on in your mind to just realize that the way things are, it doesn't have to stay that way. It can change, and you can bring the change that you desire.
Wow. I mean, I think one thing that COVID has done was really to show how deep the digital divide is, especially for African and sub-Saharan Africa, where we are. I mean, South Africa is relatively better, but is still, we've seen how many kids have not been able to pivot to go to school online because of the digital divide. How do you think we can be able to bridge the digital divide? What do you think needs to be done? Because we've been talking about it for so many years. I mean, as an African, as somebody who's involved in education and working with government, and the speeches of ministers have always been bridging the digital divide, but what practical ways do you think, if it's possible at all, for us to get everybody online?
Oh, I think it's very possible. I don't think that that's unimaginable, and I think it's probably going to have to happen with a consortium of governments and private corporations and policymakers and the educational system coming together in a collective way to solve this problem. It's a problem also in the United States, believe it or not. As wealthy as this country is, we still have many people that are not online yet and who cannot afford it. So I think, it should almost be like a universal right that people have to access technology and the internet, because that's a fountain of knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, I know that you have a passion for mentoring women. I mean, I'm one of those women who got you accessible. The fact that we are talking today was because, I sent you a message and you responded, and my question for you though is that what do you think it's important to mentor? Why do you give your time? I mean, and what do you think also can change if more people like yourself, like you've done, give their time to young women like myself? But why is mentoring so important to you?
So it's almost a selfish reason in that I get more, I think, out of my mentoring relationships than the mentees get from me. I learned so much about people, and I love being able to just, as I talked about innovation, like turn something on in a person's mind. I think when you're at the age that I'm at, which is quite senior, you want to see people coming behind you. You want to see people who are even better at what you're doing than you are. It's a very satisfying feeling if you know that there's a whole bench of people that are just going to take over when you have to step back. And if I can help in any way with that, it's always been a joy to me.
Wow. No, you are really inspiring. I think for me, just seeing how you've been, accessible and how you've been available even to me, it's like, every time even when I send you a text and respond, I still scream, and it's really, but it's also, I mean, for me, it's like, it's also shown me, what I need to do for those coming after me. Because your generosity is what inspires me to say, you know what, if you can send Marianne a text and she responds, like, why can't you respond to that little girl that is sending you an SMS? You can't say you're busy, because you are very busy and you still take the time. So I can't, but what would you like to see changing in the technology industry? I mean, I think there's a lot that I've been saying, especially for women, but also specifically women of color. When you look at the investment stats, that especially, just globally, but in the US, that only 3% of venture capital funding goes to Black women. That what do we need to change? Because I think for me, I find it very frustrating sometimes to say, you can't even say we are not capable or we are not, we don't have the intellect. When there's someone like you, who's already paved the way, like what else do we need to do for, you think that for Black women to be taken seriously in tech?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things that I can see. First, on the side of the tech companies, I think they're beginning to move to a place where they are recruiting and hiring a lot more minorities, especially people of color and women. They've done a good job with women, but now they're opening it up much more to people of color. But then once you get into the corporations, there may be issues where you don't feel like you belong and you're not being encouraged and you don't feel like you can have a successful career. So I think there needs to be a lot more work done on inclusion. And once people get in, so they don't, it's called a leaky bucket, like people come in, but then they leave through attrition because they don't feel like they can be successful. And I think a lot of it has to do with people think of technology as one where you're an individual and you have to be very competitive and beat out other companies and maybe even beat out people who are your colleagues. And I think that mindset has to change, and we need to see it more like a team sport where everyone has a role to play and there's more cooperative kind of interpersonal activities and focus and an orientation when you do the work. Because any one program or initiative takes a lot of people to do it. And I think, I even think sometimes the educational system for STEM is too focused sometimes on like the math, the science, and there's no humanities brought into that so that people understand social behavior, the psychology of how you get groups to be collaborative and cooperative with each other. And I think if like the STEM educational policy should change as well in the curriculum so that there's more of an appreciation of humanity and the arts. And I think when you combine all of that, you get such a rich, diverse set of perspectives, and it allows you to accept others much more than what I see happening today.
Yeah, I mean, my next question was to ask, I mean, you've been a leader in tech, like, for a long time, even for a company you work for before you joined Google. And I know, like, I always thought for me, one of the reasons I left corporate and to just go to my own was no matter how good you are as good as your last project, right? And I felt like I was never allowed to fail. Like, you make a mistake, your mistake becomes this explosive when you find that. So you that fear of like, I have to be perfect, I have to be good, I have to be, and I think that's stress for me. It got to the point where I felt like I am so stressed and I know I'm smart, I know I'm good, but I just felt like there was nothing I could do to get that respect that might, because if I made a mistake with one mistake, I will always be reminded. And because I was also in an industry that is obviously, I mean, South Africa and the US are the same, that it will be very much male and white dominated. And I think that stress, I don't know if it was, but for you as a leader, like, what do you do? I mean, how do you think also, but as an advice to others, how do you make sure that we don't lose people? Because even though they are good and they're brilliant, and every time when I've done well, they're like, oh my God, you came up with all these great ideas. You can see what you've done. And if one project doesn't work, oh my God, it's like Lindiwe is this person. And I think that fear of failure for me was a reason why I became an entrepreneur. I'm grateful for that, because now I'm in an industry where I can still fail, but I actually encourage that, because when you start a project, there's no guarantee it's going to succeed, no matter how prepared you are. Some projects just may not work. They may be too soon for their time or whatever, but that's really what it is. But I mean, what do you think needs to happen?
Yeah, unfortunately, the story that you're telling is a very common one. And fortunately, in your case, you could divert yourself and move on and still utilize all your talents and not be so demotivated that you just drop out completely. So I think when you're in a situation where people are making you feel like you can't fail, you need to get out of that situation, because that's not healthy, and it's not the way science or even technology progresses. That you have to fail. You have to fail, because if you're not failing, you're not learning, you're not taking a risk. And as long as you learn from the failure and can move into a space where you can eventually, it leads to success, that's the nature of science. That's the nature of progress. And companies or academic institutions that put so much pressure on people to not fail and to be perfect are really doing a disservice, not only to people, but also to countries and to, the state of the world. Because as you said, you're brilliant, you have talents, and you can be completely discouraged from using them if you're in a bad environment. So just like what you did, I think people need to either stay on top of that and change the environment, and when they can't do that, they should go to another environment. But whatever ever happens, don't quit and don't give up on yourself.
Yeah, wow. What advice would you give to girls and women entering the tech field, given our experience? I think sometimes if you want to encourage kids and the girls that are going to study tech, and you think, how honest should I be about what is it, what they need to expect? But what advice would you give to young women and young girls that are interested in entering the tech field right now, that are looking up to you and wanting to become the next Marianne Crook? What would you say? Because I think just your background, what you've been through, I can't imagine, the challenges that you've had to face.
So, I think you have to find a sense of strength from within yourself, because you are going to be exposed to difficult situations, not 100%, but you'll walk into some pretty difficult situations. But if you have this sense of self, like what you're trying to do is the right thing to do, you should seek out people who believe in you, within that environment, and then maybe 1 out of 1,000, but that one person, if they're empowered, can really help you a lot. And I think you have to realize that if you really want to change things, you're going to upset people. People are not going to like that, because people don't like change. And just, realize that that's going to happen, but they'll get to a point once you're able to demonstrate that the change is necessary and that there's a better path, they'll get to a point where you'll become a hero, even though you'll be initially ostracized and treated in an unfair way. That will happen because you're trying to change things. But if you can stick with it and get to the other side of it, it's so much better. And you have to have that inside of yourself, because sometimes you're just not going to get the encouragement that you need. But seek out that 1 or 2 empowered mentors or people that will help pull you through.
Yeah. I mean, one question that I've actually wanted to ask you for a long time is for somebody who creates, right? And how do you manage people? Because I think sometimes if you're very productive and you always goal driven, and when you create stuff, you know what you want to see at the end. But sometimes not everybody in your team will be as creative, or rather they'll find people who just want to be told how to do things. And if you are, you're taking it, how do you manage? Like, how do you manage that, and still make everybody to feel comfortable and driven by the fact that you probably don't want people to feel too comfortable because you have to deliver?
Yes, it's an art that I'm still learning. I've managed teams like as small as like 40 people, sometimes 2,000 people. And, each person that you're going to support and lead, they have different goals and they have different ambitions. So I think you have to get to know the people that you're managing and that you're leading to understand what is going to motivate them. Because and tap into that and hope that you can pull them along with your vision, but you have to respect the fact that they're individuals and there are different ways that you're going to have to motivate them as an individual. And their career and their goals have to be almost as important to you as your own, even maybe sometimes more so, because if you don't take them along and you're not empathetic to what they need, you're not going to be able to really lead them anywhere. So it takes time. It takes a lot of investment in people as individuals in order to really have a strong organization that's focused on a collective vision.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's still for me some of those things that I'm really struggling with. It's like, how do I, become, because you also want to inspire everybody, but as you're aware, sometimes you will try and find that especially when you find people that maybe can still be struggling with their self-esteem, and you need to get them to that point where and that then it becomes the sort of that challenge of trying to help this person to believe and see the potential that you see in them, and also meet your deliverables, yeah. And because the patience, I think, is one that you start to figure out, like, what is the best way to actually do that without not losing that person, because you can see what they are capable of, but they're just not at that point where they can see it themselves, right?
Yes. And, sometimes people actually have a better way, the people that you're supporting, they have a better way or a different outlook in how to reach a common goal. And we need to listen to that. I'm a person that doesn't like to be managed. So that also helps me understand how to give people enough freedom to and be autonomous enough for them to kind of set their own course, as long as we're all kind of moving in the same direction. And then, as you pointed out, some people just want you to tell them what to do. And I find those people much more challenging than the kind of free-spirited people, because you don't want to keep having to tell someone. You want someone to almost say collectively and be a partner with you, this is a better way to go, and have the rich creativity and unleash that in people, versus someone who's just going to do exactly what you tell them to do.
Yeah. And I think also the challenge is that I think for me, it also comes from our background, right? Because I know it took a lot for me to get to this point where I know what I want, and also, being stubborn, because I also don't like being managed. I'm one of those people who I feel uncomfortable with authority, As soon as there's somebody telling me what to do, my instinct is, don't do it, But our background, especially as Africans, we are raised that you need to respect your elders. You need to, for example, I think it took me almost 4 years of working to be able to look at somebody older to me in their eye, because looking at somebody straight in their eye was seen as disrespectful. And even calling you by name and saying Marianne, I was like, oh my God, I'm being disrespectful. I must call you Ma'am Marianne, Mrs. Croak. You know, that's how we are raised, because that's really how we are. But when you get to a corporate world, it's a different ball game. You don't wait for instructions. You can't just follow instructions. You need to question things for you to be able. I think those cultural stuff and trying to understand that, I think sometimes is what is difficult, especially with people who maybe have not given enough time to understand, you know, those cultural differences. Because I've also seen when I talk with people from the Middle East, the women, you know, they also come from that environment of authoritative kind of environment. So they also used to being told and don't just go out and do your own thing, because that's being disrespectful. So it's it's a really, I find it very challenging.
Yeah, it's almost like a dance, because I think those values are really good, like the respect for elders and being able to just appreciate their wisdom, but at the same time be able to be your own person and to have your own voice. It's a dance. It's definitely a dance that we have to do, especially as women.
Yeah, it is. But what I'm interested in, what would you say are the words that I live by when you wake up in the morning? And I think sometimes, like, what happens when you're feeling discouraged and you feel like, I really don't want to get up, I don't want to go to work, I don't want to have that meeting. You know, what drives you, what inspires you to get up during those times and still go out there and being the amazing woman that you are?
So there's this thing that I have in my head that I'll say, and I'll explain what it means, but it's bird by bird. And that comes from the title of a book that I read by, the author was Anne Lamott, and she was the daughter of a very prolific writer. Mm-hmm. And she tells the story of her brother, who was 10 years old, and he had been given a project to do for school, writing about birds. And 3 months he was given to do this work. And he waited until the day before it was due to start working on it. And he had all these books on the table and papers, and he was just beside himself and so anxious because he had just waited too long and it was due. And he knew that he had to turn it in. So he was crying and upset, and he said to his father, "How am I going to get this done?" And so his father said, "Buddy, just do it bird by bird." So it's like you just have to realize you can look at a goal and be completely overwhelmed by it, but if you do it step by step and you just think what's immediately before you that's going to get you to that goal, and just do that, just do that. It helps you from being so completely overwhelmed and almost paralyzed sometimes by this ambition that we have. So I see that quite a bit to myself, and I use it with my children as well, to just calm down and just do one step at a time.
That's profound. I think I'm gonna find that book, and I'm gonna read it. We ran out of time, but thank you so much for your time. And I think talking to you, I always feel so energized and so inspired. And I hope that everybody who will be listening, to you, especially all the, young women, specifically Black women, they'll look up to you and know what is possible. So thank you so much.
I can't wait to read more about what everyone's going to be doing in the future. And it's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Indeed, some profound words shared in this address, and we should all definitely get our hands on that book. Now, what is clear from the former address is that not only is Africa, but the globe leaking billions of dollars in economic growth in progressive measures of innovation and impact. Much is yet to be realized, and digital inclusion is certainly a mechanism to harness this energy. A huge thank you to Dr. Marianne Crook, the Vice President of Engineering at Google, and Lindiwe Matlali, the founder and CEO of African Teen Geeks, for driving this dialogue. Next up is our Fireside Chat with Abe Smith from Zoom USA on how Zoom has adapted and pivoted to the extraordinary demands as a business in 2020. We will be crossing over to Abe and Ralf Fletcher to facilitate at approximately 10:55.
Every day we make a lot of choices. Today I ordered lunch from Jimmy's, stepped in to get my nails done at Mary's, and I shopped online. What's really cool is that every time I paid with Visa today, I made a difference to my